I'd like to welcome to the stage our very first presenter for the morning. Ms. Barbara Baird serves as the Chief Deputy Counsel at South Coast AQMD. She works closely with the agency's general counsel on issues ranging from interpreting the Clean Air Act to monitoring compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, as well as general governmental law and enforcement matters. This morning, Barbara's topic will be identifying jurisdictional and regulatory responsibility on environmental matters. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Baird.
Thank you, Chelsea, and good morning, everyone. That film is a tough act to follow. I just wanted to let you know what, where's the slide? Whoops, I went too far. Okay. Good morning. I'm going to be giving you a tour, basically a whirlwind tour, of the agencies that regulate environmental issues. There's two purposes to my talk. And I want to let you know that they're to help you understand these agencies that often have overlapping jurisdictions and to help you figure out who to call if you have an environmental concern. These comments are only going to hit some of the highlights. Each agency has a lot of other responsibilities that may not be described here. I have prepared a contact list for the various agencies, and that's included in your program. Where an agency has identified a specific phone number or website for filing complaints, that's included in your list. Otherwise, it's general contact information. There's two principles that apply to most of the agencies I'm going to be discussing. First, the agency's authorities are generally divided by environmental issues, such as air, water, hazardous material. And in most cases, each area is regulated by agencies at the federal, state, and local level. You're all probably familiar with the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, which has responsibility in all of these areas. Generally, EPA sets the environmental standards and then delegates implementation and enforcement to the state and local agencies. But EPA can and does, in appropriate cases, enforce the federal requirements or the federally approved local requirements. Well, we'll start in the air pollution area. At the local level, we have the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and along with the California Air Resources Board, which I'll get to next, that agency implements the Federal Clean Air Act. The district covers Orange County and the urbanized portions of Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. While the district has some authority over mobile sources, our primary job is regulating stationary sources, which range from refineries to auto body shops. We issue permits for those sources as well. And really, any air pollution issue arising out of these types of sources are our responsibility. We do respond to all manner of public complaints, including issues such as odors and dust, idling diesel vehicles, smoking vehicles. There's a brochure out on the table outside that tells you how to file a complaint with us using our 1-800-CUT-SMOG number. Also in the air pollution area, at the state level, we have the California Air Resources Board. This agency sets the tailpipe emission standards for mobile sources in the state. They're also the key agency implementing AB 32 to address climate change in California. They also set emission requirements for consumer products and have regulations for diesel vehicle idling. This is an example of the overlap that I mentioned earlier. The Air Resources Board adopted diesel vehicle idling rules, but both the ARB and the local districts can enforce them. In the area of water pollution, at the state level, we have the State Water Resources Control Board, which has overall responsibility for implementing the Federal Clean Water Act. It also acts as a review body for the actions or inactions of the regional water quality control boards, which I'll get to next. So for example, if a regional board issues or declines to issue a cleanup order for water pollution, then that decision can be appealed to the state board. At the local level in the water area, we have the regional water quality control boards, And as you can see from this map, most of the South Coast AQMD area is within either the Los Angeles, Santa Ana, or Colorado River Regional Water Board boundaries. Authorities of the Regional Water Board include issuing permits for industrial discharges of waste that may affect water quality, enforcing rules, enforcing permits, issuing cleanup orders for water pollution, and they're the agency that issues the federal Clean Air Act permits required under the Clean Water Act. I'm sorry, I said Clean Air Act, force of habit. Another player in the water quality area is the local publicly owned treatment works, or better known as wastewater authorities. They set standards for industrial discharges into the sewer system and implement permit requirements for those discharges. On a more source-specific basis, the Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources, which is part of the Department of Conservation, has broad responsibility over regulations of oil wells. And I put this in the water section because a large concern regarding oil wells is their effect on water quality. But they do regulate many aspects of drilling, operation, and well closure, including most recently what I've emphasized here, the provisions of SB 4 regarding fracking. But I did want to point out that there's overlap here as well. Our area district has rules relating to oil well emissions and work practices, Rule 1148.1, and then also, as shown on the slide, Rule 1148.2 that requires public notification on our website of the substances used in well stimulation activities unless they're protected by a trade secret. In the final area I wanted to cover was hazardous substances. Again, we see the pattern in federal, state, and local agencies. The US EPA administers the Federal Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, but they do that through delegation to the State Department of Toxic Substances Control, which I'll get to in a minute. EPA also administers the Superfund law, under which they can require parties responsible to contribute to the costs of cleanup of hazardous waste sites. The State Department of Toxic Substance Control, commonly called DTSC, has a number of responsibilities. They adopt and enforce hazardous waste regulations. They issue and enforce permits for facilities that treat, store, or dispose of hazardous waste, about 100 facilities statewide. As I mentioned earlier, though, the air and water agencies also have concurrent jurisdiction over those facilities which DTS permits to enforce their respective requirements. At the local level, we have the Certified Unified Program Agency, or CUPA, and that's an agency that is certified by the DTSC to administer certain hazardous waste laws. They also administer the state law requiring businesses to have approved plans for handling materials that pose the greatest risk in the event of an accidental release, whether it be a fire risk or a toxic emission risk. So the CUPA is usually the county fire agency or health agency. Some cities, including the city of Los Angeles, have their own CUPAs. In the contact list in your program, I've provided each county agency and the city of Los Angeles, but I haven't listed each and every separate city that may have its own agency. So if you contact your relevant county agency, they can let you know if there is a local city agency for your city. Increasingly important is the role of local governments, which most importantly, they are in charge of zoning and land use decisions, such as whether a certain neighborhood should be strictly residential or allow industrial uses. They also enforce their local noise ordinances, and if you need to complain about an odor that appears to be coming from a sewage facility, then you would contact your city or county government. Finally, we have various legal offices that enforce federal, state, and local environmental requirements. The US EPA, district attorneys, and the Los Angeles City Attorney all have task forces or sections of their offices devoted to enforcing environmental violations. And as I mentioned earlier, the handout in your program is available with contact information. I should mention that if you're unsure who to call, such as you know it's an air pollution problem, but you don't know whether it belongs to the South Coast District or the Air Resources Board, I would suggest call the local agency first, since the local agency is most likely to be in the best position to respond more quickly, and they can contact the higher level agencies if it's needed to resolve your issue. That concludes my presentation, and thank you for your attention. Sorry, I didn't realize we were having Q&A. Does anybody have a question on what we've gone through at such a rapid pace?
We'll take Q&A just for 5 minutes. If anyone has questions, we'll ask that you would physically rise. And if you're on this side, you can see our mic representative to your left. And on this side, we have one over there as well. Thank you.
Hi, Pat Goodman from Huntington Beach. We just need the handout. The handout?
In your program, it's a loose leaf sheet inserted into your program. There is a contact list. Yes, several of you are holding that. Mayor Benoit, could you hold that up and everybody can see what it looks like? Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh, nice to meet you. Buenos dias. Yes, I'm interested in how you are working with notions of global warming and climate change, and are those being introduced as relevant to your decision making?
At the South Coast AQMD, we have some regulations that relate to climate change. For example, we have regulations limiting ozone depleters. We also work with the California Air Resources Board in implementing some of the provisions of their rules adopted under the Global Warming Solution Act, or AB 32, such as the landfill regulation. We also have a program that allows people to get local programs approved to reduce greenhouse gases within our air district and use those as offsets in the carb cap and trade program, so that the benefits of those GHG reductions, which often have co-benefits for the standard health affecting pollutants, are localized within our area. The primary responsibility for greenhouse gases is with the California Air Resources Board.
Yes, Rey Leon out of Fresno. I drove out here to visit all you nice people. But thank you for the presentation. You know, in regards to reporting violations, I think one of the strongest elements that we got to count on is, of course, the community's participation. Many times, a lot of the systems that are available via the various agencies are really not user-friendly and or not comprehensive linguistically for a lot of the folks. One thing that has been growing, and I think our pioneer of the system is here, is something that we call IVAN. It is investigating violations affecting neighborhoods. And it's been a system that just a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago, around Valentine's Day, because we love our health and we love our communities, we launched the Kings County IVAN, the Kings IVAN, which you know, entailed also a tour of numerous agencies, community leaders, testimonies, and this system is one that really engages. I'd say it's a good model for a participatory democracy as well, because if you don't have a strong base of community understanding all of these matters and how to report them and a system to facilitate that, then it just complicates the issue of really cleaning up the environment for everybody. But I just want to point that out. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for contribution. I just want to mention that for our agency, if you call with a complaint, at least during normal business hours, we do have staff that is qualified in a large number of languages, and you'll be referred to a person that can help you provide your information in whatever language you speak. Mark, there's someone behind you.
My name is Florence Caribbean. I'm the chair of the Del Amo Action Committee and on the LAEJ network. I want to mention Jesse Marquez, who is really one of the heroes in LA, working so hard in the port area. Thank you. And I have something to say, which is not in our backyard. Why do the people of LA have to shoulder the pollution and the burden of this huge port area when a lot of other places don't do their share? And I know that's an odd concept, but I just plant that thought. Why does it have to be Los Angeles and the counties around Los Angeles and all of us who live here who absorb and deal with the horrendous pollution from the ports?
And I expect you already know this, but the state agencies, including the California Air Resources Board, are currently involved in putting together transportation plans to have greener, lower emissions goods movement in California. And so everybody should get themselves involved in those projects, as well as the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach ongoing Clean Air Action Plan implementation.
Good morning. First, I'd like to compliment South Coast AQMD because my comments are not directed towards them. But one of the weakest areas we have in this state is the California Environmental Quality Act when it comes to the issues of air, water, and hazardous substances. These portions of EIRs, and I know they are sent to various public agencies for review, when their comments come back, they fail to miss the deep, serious technical flaws in these EIRs. And other than South Coast AQMD, which is now sending their technical experts to participate in the CEQA process, at least in the projects that impact Long Beach, I compliment you, but these other agencies are doing a very poor job, and they're leaving it up to the public to understand those thousands and thousands of pages of technical information that are misrepresented in the body of the EIR, read by elected officials, who then take false information as being truth because it's in a CEQA document. But I do want to compliment the South Coast AQMD for getting involved and taking a stand.
Thank you. Okay, I guess that's the end of the comment period. No, one more?
Good morning. My name is Irma Munoz with Mujeres de la Tierra. I'm also a member of the Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Board. Last night, I'm also a member of the Baldwin Hills Community Advisory Panel. Last night, we were given a great presentation by a number of scientists on air quality in the Baldwin Hills neighborhoods, which was good. The problem with it is, as a everyday resident and person, you don't understand half of what they're presenting to you. The report's very thorough, appears to be very thorough, very well done. But I'd like to know what resources, and we did have a representative from AQMD who spoke out very well and was very helpful. But what other resources do you have where you can educate us as residents who are not experts and don't know the science on what questions to really ask, to really deep into what the issues are? Because the scientist said, you know, I'm the scientist. Yes, we know you are, but we're the residents who are being impacted by what's going on there. And so I'd like to know, number one, what resources does AQMD have? And two, if we want to do air quality testing as a neighborhood, do you have resources? Because I know it's a very expensive proposition. And what considerations do you use for that to happen in a neighborhood?
To get to the first question about how you can get education on what the technical terms mean and so forth, we do have some brochures that are available from our district that talk about introduction to our district, what it does, and what air quality is, and so forth. At the last governing board meeting, our board directed the staff to come up with a guide essentially to public participation in the permitting process, the rulemaking process, and so forth. So that should be something that will be available soon. As far as monitoring in local areas, our staff frequently does that. You're right that it's a resource issue. Our executive officer makes the decision as to when it's appropriate to devote resources to air monitoring and other types of sampling that can be done. Sometimes we can leave a sample at your home, sampling device at your home to see what kind of pollution is landing there, and that can be done on a case-by-case basis.